Lego is without a doubt the most popular kids' toy brand ever. There's no denying it. No matter what store you go to, if there's a toy aisle in it, you're guaranteed to find at least a small section of it dedicated to Lego. Oh. Personally, I used to spend hours of my little childhood life at my cousin's house, playing Lego with him. They're some of my most treasured memories. But even though I wasn't fortunate enough to be born in a Lego household, there was one way I could get my everlasting Lego fix that didn't involve driving 2 hours into the city. You know what it is. When I wasn't at my cousin's place playing Lego with him, I was either playing Lego Indiana Jones on my dad's PS3 with my sister, or playing the original Lego Batman on my stepdad's Xbox 360. And for a period of time, I had the privilege of playing Lego Batman 2, Lego Marvel Superheroes, Lego Jurassic Park, and the Lego Movie video game on the PS4. But like all good things, they eventually came to an end, and we moved on. Fast forward to about a couple years ago at this point. Big shocker, I was procrastinating on this video too. I was talking to my sister on the phone, and the topic of Lego games came up. Hey, remember when we were kids and we'd play Batman and Indiana Jones together all the time? Man, those were fun. It's too bad old consoles cost like $5 billion, right?
You do know the Lego games were re-released on Steam, right?
Wait, what? So there I was, face to face with my old childhood friends. And yet there was one thing stopping me from slapping them in my cart and purchasing them. That goddamn price tag. With a heavy heart, I reluctantly put the games on my wish list, signed off for the night, and went to sleep, unaware of the events that would befall me just a few short weeks later. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god, it's beautiful. It's so beautiful. Take my money. Take it now. So, almost exactly $50 later, I now have 9 Lego games and a tier list to fill. So that's what we're gonna do. I got a nice mixture of games I have extreme nostalgia for, and games I've never even touched, just to add a little spice to the mix. Now, let me say these 4 things really quickly before we get started. Firstly, I haven't had the chance to address the elephant in the room until now, but yes, I have a new microphone, and I'm gonna be using this bad boy from now on. Secondly, I'm not 100%ing these games. It just takes too long, man. And frankly, I found that most of my will to continue playing these games keels over and dies when I have to replay levels for 100%. I'm not doing it. Thirdly, this list is based entirely on my own opinions. Because of this, expect this list to be incredibly fucking biased. Biased to the nth degree, even. So please don't rip me a new one in the comments, please. Thirdly, part 2. Even though there's an F tier here, that doesn't mean I think the game is bad. Because let's be honest here, none of these games are bad. If a game gets ranked in F tier, think of it as being the worst of the best, alright? Fourthly, I wanted to try and upload this during the summer because it'd be in line with my bit that I did earlier, but uh-oh, autism announcement! The release date for the new Lego Batman game was announced at the Game Awards. You know, the one where the French shat all over the gaming industry. And since that comes out in May of this year, and I wanted to get this video up before that game drops, my hand has now been forced. Thanks, Traveler's Tales, you bastards! That being said, let's jump right into the first game of our list. As expected, this is one of the 2 games I'm gonna be the most biased about, because this was one of my go-to games as a kid, so it's no surprise it's gonna be ranked pretty high on the list. I absolutely love it when original stories are written for these types of games. And sure, direct adaptations can sometimes work, we'll get back to that. I think original stories are where these types of games shine, honestly. That being said, the story for this game is extremely simple. You see those bad guys? Yeah, they just broke out of prison and are causing chaos in Gotham. Go get 'em, champ. Gameplay, very simple. It's a common theme in these games, so I'm not gonna bother repeating it at every entry. You run around, smack some goons about, complete a puzzle or 2 to progress, rinse and repeat a few times, and you get to the level's boss. Most of the time anyway. It's the Lego game formula, you can't get mad at it. The combat is very Lego game-like too. You got your main attack, which can fucking launch people, and the secondary attack, which lets you grab people and wallop them. Each character, to my knowledge, I'm not testing it, has their own grabbing and walloping animations, varying from
Where are they?
Killing is making a choice.
way too... Oh my god, I think I just felt my spine tickle there. Oh yeah, this! One of the best aspects of this game, in my opinion, is that you can play as the bad guys. And no, I don't just mean that you can just buy them from the store and screw around with them in free play. I mean, there is an entire post-game where you just replay the main story from the bad guy's perspective, which is something I just can't get enough of. And it honestly sucks that this, to my understanding, is the only LEGO game that actually does this. Going back to the good guys, I can't exactly talk about this game and its mechanics without talking about the suits. Batman and Robin have suits unique to them that do a variety of things. Can't break that glass wall? Use the sonic gun and shatter it. Unbreakable silver Lego getting in your way? Blow it up with the demolition suit. The demolition suit. I meant to say the demolition suit. Sparkly wall with an important item you can't reach? Use the magnet suit and scale the wall to collect it. Oh. Random crap sitting everywhere because nobody in Gotham understands what a garbage bin is? Use the vacuum suit. Clean it all up and stick it in this device that will then build you something. It's wonderful. Even Batgirl and Nightwing have access to the suits, and they get their own unique designs, which is a level of effort you gotta respect. Oh, and before I forget, the music is beautiful! While I was doing this, I was also watching Batman the Animated Series, so seeing the music go in a similar direction to the show that it's already taking major inspiration from is just, it's beautiful. I love it. There is, however, one issue I have with this game. And if you've played this game, you know exactly what I'm about to bring up here. The vehicle levels. You ever wonder why newer LEGO games don't have dedicated free roam vehicle levels anymore? This game is why. And it's because of the controls. They're way too slippery and make the game a million times more frustrating. Fuck this boat, by the way. The only exception to this gripe I have is Two-Face Chase, and that's because A, it heavily relies on the scientific equation of explosions equals dopamine, and B, the fact that it doesn't have this sack. The only redeeming factor about the vehicle levels is that there's only 6 of them. Anything more would have knocked this game down a tier for me. That's how frustrating they are. However, because that's not the case, I'm coming right out of the gate by putting LEGO Batman the video game in S tier, straight up. It is the optimal choice in my opinion for a simple, nostalgic, feel-good game. That's it. And now we jump from using mumbles and grunts and moans to communicate, and now we have actual dialogue, and holy shit! Who knew that such a simple change could grant the writers the ability to write a more complex and engaging story? That story being, the Silver Surfer is silver surfing around the Earth when he suddenly encounters an aircraft and is shot out of the sky, scattering bits of his board all around the place. Jump cut to Dr. Doomy Jr. in his castle, now holding the Silver Surfer prisoner and yapping about the cosmic bricks that came from his board. Who's he yapping to? The game tries to set it up as a mystery, but the identity is literally revealed at the end of the first level. It's just Loki. He enlists a whole bunch of supervillains from across the Marvel universe, not that one, to collect more cosmic bricks and to build a big gun. Guys like Abomination, the Goblin, Magnet Man, Bring Me a Dream, the best Marvel villain, and you can fight me on this one, Medic TF2, wait what, and the Third Reich Squared. So just like Doom, Nick Fury assembles a group of heroes of his own, like Dr. Doom again. Hugh Jackman, Guy with Bow, Girl with Gun, Mutants, the best Marvel superhero, and holy shit, Sonic the Hedgehog!
And shit, it's Roger, isn't it? It's gonna be Roger.
By the 4th level, Loki and a handful of villains escape prison and go off to do villain stuff, which you go after and defeat one by one. While you're doing that, you rescue Silver Surfer from Doom and discover that Galactus, the Eater of Worlds, is on his way to Earth. But we can't do anything about it until we reconstruct Surfer's board. At the end of the game, Loki with the completed gun betrays Doom and goes on to take control of Galactus. Then the good guys and bad guys team up, send Galactus and Loki away, and that's the end of the game, thanks for coming. Right off the bat, we have a lot more characters to play with, varying from level to level, with most characters having unique abilities that can either aid them in combat or in level progression, which allows for more complicated puzzles. Something else that makes the characters stand out is their takedown moves. Alright, these were cool and funny to a degree, like where else are you gonna see the Hulk punch some minimum wage goon like a softball? But the main issue with this mechanic is that these will activate entirely against your will and not allow you to move until the animation is done, which can get really annoying when you're stuck in a pile of bodies. The writing as well is really great, not just in the story, because I think the story, despite me making fun of it earlier, is actually pretty good. But the fact that it's not often I get to play a game that's consistently this funny, and I'm saying this as an adult, this game makes me laugh. Speaking of humor, Stan Lee! This being a Marvel game, of course Stan Lee's gonna make a cameo or two, but the way they handled this, turning him into a collectible, is just so consistently, Stan, how the hell did you get up there? The overworld as well is one of the best in LEGO games. I have no idea what witchcraft Traveler's Tales practiced to make an overworld this big and this alive while ensuring the PS3 doesn't achieve cruising altitude, but god damn it, they did it. That being said, while I have all my positives about the game, and believe me, there's some real glowing positives, there are also a handful of negatives. 6-7. Problem number 1, the post-game. Specifically how you progress through it, because good lord! Look, I understand having goalposts to encourage people to 100% the game, but come on! You need 200 gold bricks to unlock everything! 200! They also slowed down the building speed for some reason. I don't know why, nor will I ever know why. It's just why. Complaint number 3. I forgot we were keeping track. This is probably a result of the game being ported from a console to Steam, because I don't remember the game being this constantly glitchy. The other LEGO games had their occasional bugs, but I found that I've had it the second worst with this one, and we'll get to the actual worst later. Listen, it's one thing to have the odd visual glitch that you can stop and laugh at for a minute before moving on, but it's another thing entirely when Wolverine's foot gets stuck on a tiny piece of rubble, and since you can't kill him, your game's effectively soft-locked, forcing you to restart. Thankfully, this happened at the beginning of the level, so it really wasn't that painful, but my point still stands, it's annoying as shit. Oh, and the cherry on top of all this nonsense is Coulson, shut the fuck up! Yes, there's a lot of positives to this game. In fact, it's one of my favorite LEGO games on here. However, there are just enough flaws with this game that I'm gonna have to knock it down to A tier. This was another game that I played when I was a kid, so I was really looking forward to playing it again. Until I started playing, realized it was just the movie but worse, and was talked into playing Chicken Run for the PS1 instead. Okay, I would have finished it off here if I just did that and moved on to the next game, but I decided to put my disappointment aside and give the game a fair shot, and yeah, they were right, so I played Chicken Run for the PS1 instead. Look, I know this game probably has its fans, but I am just not one of them. It's not bad or anything, best of the worst and all, but unlike other LEGO game adaptations of popular media, it doesn't really offer anything that unique. You're getting exactly what's on the tin here. I know this aspect isn't necessarily the game's fault, but I'm gonna blame it anyway because this is my tier list and I don't care. The reason why other LEGO adaptations work is because the original IP, believe it or not, isn't LEGO based. So that change on its own creates a charm and uniqueness that no other IP can touch, including the LEGO Movie game. It honestly feels like they just made this out of obligation. But my absolute biggest complaint is that despite using clips directly from the movie as the cutscenes for the game, it entirely skips chunks of the movie, with the trade-off being that the gameplay further fleshes out the in-between shots. You know, the traveling, the fighting, all that stuff. Now this would make sense as a trade-off, and I get that not everything is gonna make it into the final product, except it doesn't make sense because about 80% of the cut content is dedicated to Emmett's character development, including the scene that starts it off entirely. I'm being so deadass, I rewatched the original film just to make sure I wasn't going insane. Look, if you want an enjoyable LEGO Movie experience, just go watch the LEGO Movie. LEGO Movie C tier, Chicken Run for the PS1 S tier. The only thing keeping this game from getting an F is the fact that the humor remained intact. Screw off. Also, fuck Phil Lord and Chris Miller. Before we begin, I'd like to spare a moment of silence to the mumbles and grunts that the LEGO characters used to make in order to communicate with each other. Because even though we've covered 2 games that have actual dialogue, this is the first LEGO game to officially start using actual voice actors. Alright, let's get to it. The story is brief and to the point. Bruce Wayne and Lex Luthor are competing for Man of the Year. Bruce wins and the Joker appears. Then Batman and Robin appear and fights ensue. And with some help from Superman, the heroes win the day. Where was Lex Luthor during all this? Crashing the fuck out from losing an award that ultimately doesn't really mean anything. And he decides to take it out on Batman. He develops the gun that specifically fucks over Batman and nobody else gun, breaks out the Joker and his friends, and then they team up. Then the rest of the story is just the heroes and villains spitting at each other until the very end of the game, where the only memorable part of it actually happened. That being the reveal of the giant robot whose purpose is to commit election fraud. Yes, I'm being serious. They go across Gotham and spew a bunch of Joker gas that brainwashes people into voting for Lex Luthor, while casually committing domestic terrorism, probably not realizing the world is currently watching him do this, and he will likely just be prosecuted anyway. Batman then uses the robot to his advantage, using it to call in his poundmate, the DC Super Friends. I mean the Justice League. Upon realizing that his hours were now numbered, Lex Luthor does the most logical thing ever in this situation. Crash out even further and topple Wayne Tower, likely killing thousands of innocent people. A plan which is thwarted with the help of the Justice League and a fucking orbital laser. Once all that's said and done, the Joker and Lex are arrested and the game's over. Now, this would be the part where I talk about gameplay stuff, and believe me, I will. But for once, I actually have an issue with the story itself. The story feels really rushed. Rushed in the way that it feels like it should have been a filler episode for the Justice League TV show. And I'm telling you right now, it's because the game only has 15 levels. If it broke from the usual 15 level rule, it would have given the writers more opportunity to actually use the characters they have at their disposal. That's another thing, actually. Despite the fact that this game is called LEGO Batman 2's DC Super Friends, you barely get to interact with Gotham's villains. I mean, for fuck's sakes, the Justice League doesn't even show up until the very end of the game. Come on, they might as well have not even been here. Okay, gameplay stuff. The suits make their triumphant return, getting a complete makeover. Some suits are fused together to make room for newer ones, some suits are thrown out entirely, and the ones that are kept in get a fresh coat of paint. It's great. Also, thank you to whoever fixed the magnet suit's speed problem. I owe you my life. In fact, you know what? An additional thank you to the guy who pitched the idea of replacing vehicle levels with first-person shooter gallery levels. These are infinitely better than what we had before, and I'm glad this change for the most part carries over to other LEGO games. The unfortunate part is that despite it introducing probably the most iconic thing in this trilogy, I don't really find the game all that memorable. Like, sure, it's LEGO Batman Plus, but that doesn't really change the fact that there's no extra levels for the post-game. The story gets to the ending climax before you even fully realize it, and because of that, the majority of the Justice League and the Batman villains get shafted before they actually get the chance to do anything. I'm gonna keep it a stack. I've been struggling to say more about this game for the past 3 paragraphs, so I'm just gonna finish it off by bestowing this game with a C. Please don't kill me for this. Before I continue, I'd like to state that this is the first game on the list that I have absolutely no previous experience with. This was my first ever playthrough. I was gonna start this off by making a joke about how the game is such a direct sequel to the first one that it happens like the day after the events of the first, which if you just look at the 4th cutscene, it's heavily implied to be. But apparently, I'm just fucking wrong! Yeah, turns out there's an entire established timeline for this franchise that goes back to the Big Bang. I don't know, but I wanted to do some research to make sure that what I was saying was actually correct before I made the joke, and that led me to find out the timeline wiki just looks like this. I wholeheartedly believe that everybody involved in the creation of this should seek an autism diagnosis if they haven't done so already, because there is nothing neurotypical about what is on your screen right now. Back on topic. We start with the best Marvel team, the Guardians of the Galaxy, showing up to, Xandar. And there's a giant sword in the sky invading the place, which I called a giant willy through the whole playthrough specifically to piss off Tommy. Love you, buddy. That sword belongs to Kang the Conqueror and his wife Ramona, who he kidnapped and who will definitely not betray him later. During the invasion, Kang drops a bunch of big sticks that embed into the ground. Unfortunately, the Guardians, Kang, and the camera leaves the area before we can figure out what happens. Jump cut to the Avengers, sitting in a mansion, partying it out when they get called in to do a whole bunch of just Avengers stuff. 3 teams go off to do their own thing, beating the hell out of a bunch of bad guys, and encountering 5 of the Sinister Six on the Brooklyn Bridge. The reason why I bring them up specifically is because I wanted to bring up Dr. Octopus and his god-awful fucking ride. What is this thing? After all is said and done, the heroes find out through their respective villains that something big is coming, and that something big is Kang, who shows up, drops those big sticks again, and blasts us with copyrighted music, and sends off a chunk of Manhattan to the world map of this game. Chronopolis, and the Avengers react to this by splitting up again and doing a bunch of other stuff. The gang winds up in the swamp of the Man-Thing, who up to this point, I had absolutely no idea was a Marvel IP. The swamp holds a tree, keeping the places in Chronopolis separated, and their job is to protect it. Then Kang arrives, blows up the tree, and causes all hell to break loose in Chronopolis. Which at this point, Kang reveals his plan of creating an environment where a challenger would emerge for him to defeat and prove his superiority. Goddamn. So after that's openly declared, the Avengers, after reaching out to Cosmo the talking dog on Nowhere, which in order to achieve that required splitting up again, deduce that the tree is broken into pieces and split off into different parts of Chronopolis, which we need to get back in order to make a portal to the Forest Nowhere into the city. So they split up and do that. They figure out where they are, shards are collected, they bring Nowhere to Chronopolis and use it as an EMP to shut down Kang's defenses. They fight Kang, Kang gets betrayed, blam, boom, game's over. Now, something you've probably noticed right away is that there's a lot more to my summarization of the story than any of the other games I've talked about. The story, no. The game is the most intense and complex on this list so far. This is like the Smash Ultimate of Marvel. It's incredible, and it's all thanks to Chronopolis. I was being intentionally vague about this place while discussing the story for a reason, because its existence plays a massive part in why I love this game so goddamn much. After you're sent there, it's where the entire rest of the story takes place, which thanks to its diversity gives way to genuinely gorgeous level design that I didn't think for even a second got stale and repetitive. That sounds like sarcasm. Trust me, it's not. I genuinely love this. I also love that for their cast, they didn't just go the lazy route of jingling their popular characters in people's faces like keys. I mean, they still do that, but it's not as bad this time around. They actually use this story as an excuse to bring some obscure Marvel characters into the spotlight. Like, be honest, did anybody know who Stingray was before playing this game? Or Medusa? Black Bolt? What does this guy even do? Oh... Yeah, I'm starting to understand why some of these guys got left out of the MCU. Do you know how long Infinity War would have been if the Inhumans were around? Like, Thanos would have been fucking cooked, dude. Speaking of the roster, did you know these guys have bros attacks? I'm not kidding, these are just straight up bros attacks. And it's honestly baffling just how many combinations there are. The best part about this, though? You can't activate them by accidentally. 10 out of 10 game of the year, put her in S tier. No. Okay, it is going in S tier, but that's not the only reason why. I still want to gas up this map design. I said Manhattan was one of the best hub worlds for LEGO games, but I think Chronopolis is just straight up better. The depth of this map, and just how many moving parts it has, is something to behold. Once again, the way Traveler's Tales was able to get this game to even function on the fucking Nintendo Switch without the console becoming an IED is something that needs to be studied. Common enemies get some nice changes that forces you to stop mashing the same button for a couple seconds and use a different attack. Bosses got a new revamp, throwing away the old heart system and giving them an actual health bar, which I enjoy, because that means I get more chances to punch this stupid prick's face in before he jumps off to another side of the room. The tutorial pop-ups are completely optional, and you can look back at them if you forget what to do with the simple press of a button. It's great, it's wonderful, I love it. Honestly, this is just LEGO Marvel Superheroes 1, but better in almost every single way. I say almost because I do have one single issue with the game. And this single issue kept me from continuing beyond the main storyline. It's Gwenpool. It is just Gwenpool. Look, her design is cute, but I cannot fucking stand her here, I'm sorry. I get she's supposed to be annoying the same way Deadpool is, but I find a very strong imbalance in the actual humor to annoying ratio, not helped at all by the fact that her voice sounds like nails on a chalkboard. But honestly, that's the only issue I have here. I fucking love this game. You can probably tell because this is the game I've spent the longest time talking about. For God's sakes, I'm entering page 3 on this section. I need to move on. Look, it has 4 Spider-Men in the main story. What else do I need to say to convince you? S tier. If you're a Marvel Comics fan and you choose to skip out on this game, you're actively doing yourself a disservice. I cannot recommend it enough. Okay, I have a confession to make. I thought this game was gonna suck. With the first LEGO movie game putting such a bad taste in my mouth, and the fact that I thought the second movie in general was kinda bad, I was fully expecting to not have a good time playing this game. For God's sakes, this game was the reason I made an F tier. That should be enough to show how little faith I had in it. But you know what? I'm man enough to admit when I'm wrong. I like this game. Quite a lot, actually. It goes in a different direction with both the story and the gameplay itself, which I think was executed really well for the most part. The story's big plot points are the same, but the way the cast gets there is entirely different, which I really like. Except for the end of it, where the writers realized that they only had about half an hour of storyline left, and instead of making another world to finish off that story, they condensed it into the worst final boss fight I have ever seen in a video game. Yes, it's even worse than that one. A 5-minute cutscene and a fucking dance sequence end my life! Okay, it just dawned on me that I might have left a really bad impression on the story itself, but I do think the story before the finale is actually pretty good. Just wanted to get that out of the way. Also, I just want to know something. What did Chris do to these writers? It was only 2019. People weren't sick of him everywhere just yet. Emmett was shafted from the first LEGO game quite a bit by cutting out all of his character development, but here he is done diabolically dirty. Emmett's role as the protagonist is stripped and given to Lucy, while he, along with Rex, who is the main antagonist of the second film, by the way, are reduced to fucking background characters who hardly even speak. What did this man do to you guys? Okay, on to the gameplay. Like I said, it also goes in a completely different direction, and I think it pulls it off really well. The game completely ditches the level-by-level formula in favor of multiple open worlds, with quests that keep you going along the main storyline, and stuff to collect alongside it. And when all is said and done, it wraps up with a boss fight. While the final boss was a complete and utter joke, the regular bosses were fucking insane. I'd go so far as to say that these are the best lineup of bosses in this video, period. Each of them are unique in their own way, both in looks and how you have to fight them. But the thing that makes these fights absolutely top drawer, without a shadow of a doubt, is oh my god, the music! Why did the game devs lock the fuck in here? This blows the first LEGO Movie game completely out of the water. And finally, if this game wasn't dancing on the prequel's grave enough, it has original cutscenes! Original cutscenes! Sure, they aren't as entertaining as I'd hoped they'd be. In fact, I think this was the only time I laughed in the entire game, and it was by complete accident.
There.
Holy shit, Yakuza. Yakuza selfie.
But the fact that these are here at all summarizes everything you need to know about this game. This is the level of quality the first game should have had from the get-go. It's fucking embarrassing. And for that, I'm putting this game in its well-deserved spot in the A tier. And knocking the first game directly into F tier, I'm not even apologizing. It blows. This, I feel, is the best way to experience the LEGO Movie 2. Full stop. If I had the option to either watch the film or play this game, I'd pick the game every single time without hesitation. This was another game I was going into expecting to dislike, this time due to word of mouth, and I really don't get it. Yeah, I have my issues with it, which I'll get to later, but the level of exaggeration here made me think that the game was gonna burn my house down, bench press my confidence, and fuck my wife as insult to injury. I stand by the statement that, like the sequel to Marvel Superheroes, this is just a better version of LEGO Batman 2. Hell, even the story's an improvement. That being Brainiac stealing the lanterns in order to harness their power. What does he plan to do with it? We'll find out. But right now on Earth, Lex Luthor, the Joker, and a handful of other villains are taking over the Justice League space station thing. I don't remember what this thing is called. And the Justice League is called in to help. They do so, and once the bad guys are defeated, Brainiac appears and shrinks the Earth. Upon witnessing this, the bad guys and good guys decide to team up and defeat Brainiac. Unfortunately, this fight causes an issue with his ship, and inflicts a handful of our characters with personalities that align with each of the lanterns that he stole earlier. The results of which varying from funny to, I'm not gonna lie, a few of these guys are just kind of annoying. While all this happens, Brainiac escapes to Earth to continue what he still can of his plan, and he just starts going after cities. A few of the heroes split off to go after him, before ending up in Gotham and trapping Brainiac. After that, the heroes split up again to find and steal lantern cores, to lure all the lanterns to one place so they can return the Earth to normal, and this works. Unfortunately, since the Earth grew back to its original size, so too did Brainiac's cage. So he's free now. He tracks down the good guys in record time and takes control of Superman, who is huge now because he took the brunt of the Lantern's power. Uh-oh. Thankfully, one boss fight later, he's back on our side, Brainiac's defeated, and everything goes back to normal. This story is pretty good, and it even made us laugh a couple times. However, there is one aspect of the writing that I just flat out do not like, and it's one of my main issues with the game. What the hell did they do to Batman? Sure, he was kind of a jerk in the second game, but that animosity had a reason to be there. It's not a very good reason, but it's a reason. Here, though, I'm not the most versed in Batman interpretations, I'm the first to admit that, but coming from the animated series, which the games are still based on, by the way, it is a dramatic transition to see. Anybody who's watched the show knows just how powerful and intimidating Batman is, while at the same time being patient and sympathetic to the villains and their situations, no matter how cruel they were. Okay, with like 1 or 2 exceptions. Even in other animated adaptations of Batman, he's definitely serious, but he's still a fucking person. Here he keeps that powerful and intimidating energy, but the difference here is that he's downright Flanderized to just be an asshole. Nobody else has this issue either, it's just Batman. And it's because of that, I genuinely cannot fucking stand him here. I can't figure out how to write a good transition for this part, so we're moving on to gameplay. I like it. The suits get another redesign, not so much in looks, but more so in mechanics. Instead of having to build a station where you change your suits, like in the other 2 Batman games, you can now just press and hold to open a menu to access whatever suit you want, whenever you want. I was fine with the building mechanic, but this is really awesome. I didn't know you could smooth out an already smooth transition in gameplay style, but they did it. Not only that, but you've now got 7 suits to choose from, and way more characters that can use them. I don't know why Joker is among those characters, but he's serving way too fucking hard for me to care. Character design be damned, I am not immune to the suit and tie trope. Speaking of designs, the suits that return stay the same, with the exception of a couple, and the new suit designs look amazing. Except for this one, which does nothing but give Lex a shield, which he proceeds to only use 1 time in the entire game, which is right here, and he's also the only one who can use it. It's so stupid. One other thing to add on is that for the save the guy from the strange peril mechanic, they used Adam West. You know, the actor for Batman in the original Batman show. Actually, there's a decent handful of references to the show, dedicating the credit sequence to it entirely, as well as a post-game level. Well, it turns out the reason for that is because in 2014, the year that this game released, it was also the 75th year anniversary of the Batman show, which gives these references a whole new meaning. But even without knowing that, I found these references absolutely adorable. Okay, I know I complained earlier about Batman's writing being my biggest issue with the game, but here's my second biggest issue with the game. There's no hub world. Okay, I'm telling a little bit of a lie, there technically is one. It's just that for a modern LEGO game, it's really bad. And you don't even unlock all of it until you finish the game. Even after beating the game, you have to do more gold brick stuff just to unlock the rest of the hub world. Why? Oh yeah, before I forget, remember back in LEGO Marvel Superheroes 1, I said we would get to the buggiest game on the list? Well, we're here. This is the worst put together game of the bunch. I know it's not necessarily their fault, it is a direct port from console to PC, and I can understand the game having a hard time coping with that. But did Traveler's Tales not think it was necessary to do at least a little bit of playtesting before shipping it off to consumers? This game is in the same boat as LEGO Marvel Superheroes for me, where it's great, but it's just so hard to ignore these very obvious flaws. And I wholeheartedly feel like if they were addressed, the game would be perceived much more fondly. As such, I feel it is appropriate to put this game in B tier. For Batman.
Get out!
I like this game too. It's got problems, but overall, it was a really good time. Contrary to the title, the game doesn't just adapt the first Avengers movie into LEGO, it adapts the second one too. And a little bit of the first Captain America movie, but shh. The attention to detail here is really nice. The game looks really good, and in some parts downright pretty, and the music is taken directly from the Avengers soundtrack. I didn't bring up the puzzles very much because they're all kind of the same, but I will say specifically that the puzzles here are pretty well put together, and by that I mean it made me think for more than 2 minutes as an adult. Something I can say with confidence is that the game is really funny. The devs knew what goal they were trying to achieve, and they wanted to take the opportunity to stuff in as many jokes and visual gags as possible while doing it, and I just cannot get enough of it. Bros attacks make their return, yes, that's what I'm calling them, sue me, and they're okay? There's once again unique attacks depending on which combination of characters engage them, but the attacks themselves range from just okay to oh my god, I just violated so many conventions doing that. In addition, unlike Batman 3, it actually has decent hub worlds. And here's where I start complaining again. Before anyone assumes, no, I don't hate the hub worlds. They're all very well put together. But compared to the other games, they are criminally underutilized. You barely get to explore them between levels, unlike in its predecessors, which is very unfortunate. And on top of that, the mini-map, and honestly, just this whole map UI, is fucking shit! Why does it look like this? It is so bad. Give me the old one back, bro. That one was so much better. The game also uses lines from the film itself for the cutscenes, which itself isn't that bad. The problem comes when either after the execution of a secondary attack, killing a certain bad guy, or just whenever they're not doing anything, they spout off one-liners from the films, which I don't think I need to tell you can get really stupid really quickly. Despite all that though, it's a pretty decent game. It does what it was set out to do, and it does a damn fine job doing it. A tier. This is a good game. I suggest playing it if you have 20 bucks laying around and some time to kill. Okay, maybe wait for a sale so you only have to spend $5 instead of 20. Ah, Lego Indiana Jones, my darling, my beloved, my one sunshine in the stormy sky. Oh, how I love you. Out of all the games I mentioned in the intro, this is the one I had the fondest memories of. Honestly, let's just get this out of the way because I think it's pretty obvious where in the tier list this game lies. S tier. Call me an old head and a nostalgia baiter all you want, I don't care, I love this game to pieces. We love it so much that when I was talking to my sister about making this video, she asked if she could play the game with me. And she did. Yes, this entire segment has my sister there acting as player 2. Hell, we enjoyed the game so much that after beating it, we went on to 100% the damn thing, which is the only game in this list I did this for. It's pretty obvious where this game was gonna go. The original Adventures is a direct adaptation of all the Indiana Jones films, until Kingdom of the Crystal Skull released nearly a calendar month later, forcing the devs to re-release the game, but with Crystal Skull attached to it, which I find very funny. Compared to the previous entries, this game is a lot more simple, and honestly, a lot more relaxing. And that likely comes from the media that it's adapting and just how faithful it is. The game didn't have to add their own jokes and visual gags because the Indiana Jones films on their own are already really funny. And I especially love the fact that aside from a certain place, they don't shy away from adapting death scenes. There is one other thing this game does that, to my knowledge, only one other LEGO game ever does, and that's the LEGO Movie 2. We're familiar with certain characters having specific abilities, it's part of the LEGO game formula. However, this game approaches that mechanic a little differently. Yes, there are still certain things that only certain characters can do. For example, whip triggers can only be activated by Indy, and these tunnels can only be accessed by short characters like my goat Short Round. However, this game also introduces tools. Some characters have tools on them by default, but more often they're not. They're just placed in specific locations around the map for you to grab and use. You got shovels, wrenches, explosives. Hell, if you kill a bad guy that drops a hat, you can steal their hat and pretend to be them to get into certain areas. That's ingenious. I honestly wish this mechanic was used in more games because it was really cool. I don't know how I'm gonna rate a finishing statement for this game, so I'm just gonna say that I absolutely loved the game and it was a privilege to re-experience. And that's a wrap. Thank you for coming with me as I ran about something I did for the second time. I know the last two big scripted videos I've done have been significantly different from my usual content, so some feedback about how you feel about these types of videos would be very much appreciated. Here's my final list, and if I said something bad about a game you liked, tough, it's my video. That's all I have to say. Change the
Yeah, sorry, Nora. I know
What are
you
you
worked
doing?
really hard on this tier list,
Great.
but unfortunately
Stop.
everything you said is wrong. All these games suck.
Hey,
Because the best one is Lego City
Stop, stop,
Undercover!
stop.